Reflexión, ayuno y oración. Por quinto año consecutivo, la Administración Municipal de Utuado, el alcalde Jorge A. Pérez Heredia, la Oficina de Base de Fe y el 88.1 Inspira te invitan a la firma de la proclama de los 40 días de reflexión, ayuno y oración. Unidos en la fe, rompiendo barreras. Con Kimi Rashki y en la adoración, la salmista Joyce de Jesús. Los 40 días comienzan el jueves 3 de septiembre y culminan el lunes 12 de octubre. Conmemorando el 287 aniversario de Utuado y la llegada del cristianismo a nuestro pueblo. Únete de 6 a 7 de la mañana y en el gran cierre el 12 de octubre a las 6:30 de la tarde. Acompáñanos a la placita Manuel E. Mena Vertesía con la participación del doctor Luis Ángel Díaz Pavón. Utuado, unidos en la fe, rompiendo barreras. Se invita la Administración Municipal de Utuado y el 88.1 Inspira para toda buena obra.
Si por mucho tiempo has pensado que tu ministerio necesita su propio programa de radio y con proyección digital,
no lo pienses más y llama a 88.1 Inspira, porque tenemos en esta temporada espacios disponibles en nuestro inventario para que por fin tengas tu propio proyecto de radio.
Los medios de comunicación masivos siempre son vías muy productivas para proyectar el mensaje del Evangelio de Jesucristo, y en Inspira hay espacio para tu ministerio.
Llama o escríbenos por WhatsApp al 787-747-8801.
787-747-8801
y permítenos orientarte.
Hazte parte de la familia de 88.1.
Inspira.
787-747-8801.
Mujer, ¿ya descargaste nuestra aplicación móvil? Está totalmente rediseñada para ti, llena de contenido de valor para toda la familia. Noticias, reflexiones. Escúchanos en vivo a donde quiera que vayas. La emisora oficial de Dímelo, con Joelo Santiago y Liz Moreno. Promesa Network.
WPS, Minsk, Orlando y Sanford, Florida.
8:40 AM.
Nos escuchas en nuestra app Promesa 840. Descárgala.
Con los éxitos de hoy y de siempre.
Promesa 840.
Promesa Network está de fiesta porque uno de nuestros programas llegó a Puerto Rico.
¿Dices la verdad?
Sí, nuestra Liz Moreno y Joelo Santiago llegan a Puerto Rico con su programa Dímelo.
No puedo creerlo.
A través de la histórica emisora cristiana Inspira 88.1 FM.
HPR es otra cosa.
Te garantizamos el mejor programa de radio en las tardes, donde te informaremos, educaremos, recibirás una palabra poderosa y a la misma vez la pasarás súper bien.
Cuenta conmigo.
De lunes a viernes de 1 a 5 de la tarde. Disfrutas Dímelo por Promesa Network, Radio Libre, Oasis 97.3 Augusta, Georgia, y ahora por Inspira 88.1 FM para todo Puerto Rico.
Fuera de esta experiencia, la perla de Dios, porque para Dios tú eres una perla de gran valor. Te esperamos.
Dos generaciones. Una sola esencia. Cristo. La música que ha inspirado corazones por décadas se une en un encuentro de alabanza, adoración y esperanza. Llega Sonido de Generaciones con Adamaris Rodríguez y Julio Enrique. El sábado 29 de agosto de 5 a 7 de la noche por Inspira 88.1 FM y banderadeamor.com. Sonido de Generaciones, donde la música une corazones y exalta a Cristo.
88.1 Inspira. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. Dios de promesa. En cada temporada tú has estado conmigo. Me has abrazado cuando más solo y vacío me he sentido. Por favor no me sueltes, quiero estar siempre contigo. En todo tiempo quiero alabarte, en mi peor momento llegaste. Qué gozo es poder adorarte, que tu presencia nunca me falte. Nadie me ama como tú.
Esta radioemisora es patrocinada por Magic Transmission, especialista en la reconstrucción de transmisión de vehículos. Trabajos garantizados. 25 años de experiencia. Visítenos en la 10505 Cleveland Road, Garner, North Carolina, 27529. Llámanos al 984-242-4989. Estimados gratis. En asuntos de transmisión, Magic Transmission es la solución. Llámanos al 984-242-4989. Y recuerde que como Magic Transmission no hay dos.
Si se lesionó en un accidente, llame al abogado Bello para una consulta gratis. Tiene derecho a compensación por sus daños, ingresos perdidos, dolor y sufrimiento. Cobramos solo si ganamos su caso. Llame al 919-884-0031. 919-884-0031. El abogado Bello es hispano y habla su idioma. El abogado Bello te ayuda con ello.
Anhelos, tú estarás siempre de primero. Y lo que busca mi alma es que solo puedas darle tu amor. Y esperaré.
Atraviesa el tráfico de autos con el mejor playlist.
The drive home sounds better.
El camino suena mejor con la Celestial 106.5.
No le cambie, porque a continuación comenzará un programa que bendecirá tu vida. Aquí en la Celestial FM 106.5. El siguiente programa es clasificación A, apto para todo público. Contenido E, entretenimiento.
Toda palabra o punto doctrinal emitido en el siguiente programa es responsabilidad exclusiva del programador y no de esta radioestación.
Bienvenidos a Café con Hispanos, un programa que conecta nuestra fe, nuestros valores como familia, nuestros negocios y proyectos de ley que afectan a nuestra comunidad hispana aquí en Carolina del Norte. Entrevistamos al gobierno y a líderes de nuestra comunidad para dialogar sobre el trabajo que realizan en beneficio nuestro, actualidad y un sabor a dulce hogar. Somos la voz de nuestra gente hispana. Le damos la bienvenida al pastor Gilbert Pagan. Café con Hispanos comienza.
Cuando el mundo te inunda de fatalidad y te agobia la vida con su mucho afán y se llena tu alma de preocupación y se seca la fuente de tu corazón. Cuando quieres huir porque no puedes más, porque solo te sientes entre los demás y no hay más en tus ojos brillo y emoción y se cierra tu boca porque no hay canción. Puedes sentarte a sus pies y de sus manos beber la plenitud que tu alma necesita. Puedes sentarte a sus pies cada día tener una nueva canción y nueva vida. A sus pies.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Hispanics, and we are here in the studios in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we're going to have a conversation today with Dr. Gene Douglas, who's running for Congress in North Carolina, District 2, which I believe covers all of Wake County and maybe some other little areas. I'm not exactly sure. And Dr. Gene is going to share with us his platform and why he's running, a little bit about himself and his background. He's not a stranger to the show. He's been here before when he ran last time for Congress, and it's good to have you, Dr. Gene. Thanks for coming to the studio.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to share why I'm doing it and share myself with the 2nd District. And it includes most of Wake County, going all the way out to Zebulon.
Okay.
And then parts of Cary, parts of Apex, and other stuff there, as well as parts of all the way up to Wake Forest.
Okay, gotcha. So you're really covering all of, for the most part, Wake County. No Orange, no Chatham.
But no other counties, just Wake County.
All of Wake County,
and
great.
What's interesting is I first ran for U.S. Senate in Hawaii, and the population here in Wake County is more than it was in Hawaii at the time.
Yeah.
But the liberal Democrats are just as liberal and just as radical as the Hawaii Democratic Party.
Gotcha. So tell us a little bit about your background. Obviously, the Dr. Gene part, and how'd you got to North Carolina? Tell us about that. Give us a little history lesson here.
Well, I grew up in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, and basically both my parents went to Swarthmore College, so I wanted to go to college just like they did, but I chose to go to Christian college because I was a new Christian. I became a Christian when I was 15, and out of a very messy family situation, and it was a great blessing that God gave me a new family. So I went on to King's College, double majored in chemistry and math with a minor in Bible. And then I started grad school at North Dakota State University in polymers and coatings because I liked paint and chemistry, how it dried and then wouldn't come off. When I was 4, I recognized that. And I thought it was incredibly cool. I like to cook, and so it's like chemistry, they do a lot of cooking. And so basically it was a situation where I felt very comfortable in that area. And then I transferred grad schools and ended up getting my master's degree in polymer science also from UConn, the University of Connecticut. And my dad grew up in London, so I felt very comfortable at UConn, the Storrs campus, which is very much like NCSU.
Yeah.
It's a very, very nice community and whatever else, but the area, the NCSU campus is kind of the same attitude. And so basically, I graduated from there and I went into industry, and I got to Decatur, Illinois, and went to church, and there was a young people's group there, and I met my wife there, and then we dated a few dates, got married 4 months later, and God blessed us with a great family. And so my sons are now 38 and 40 and settled in what God has doing for them, which is a thrill and a great blessing for me as well as for Carol. And so it's a situation where that's sort of the story of my life where I am now. And I was saying, as a chemist, old chemists never retire, we just reach equilibrium. So this is my odd equilibrium, running for Congress again. But basically, I ran in Hawaii, which is a very blue state, almost more blue than Wake County. And so I took a stand against a corrupt U.S. Senator, Daniel Noy, and because he was essentially responsible for the destroying of the Hawaii sugar industry, and I knew that as a chemist. But I was there to teach chemistry, and my wife was going to UH Hilo to get her degree, and I was teaching there on the Big Island, and so God was using me in this position where I could do this on the side, and it's a more complicated story I'm not going to go into that thing, but then in 2000, it was Senator Kaka running, so I took him on for the same issues, which was easy. And then God moved us for a new chemistry teaching position to Kauai first, so we were there for a year, and then we went to New Hampshire, Concord, where I got another teaching position. And so then pro-life conservatives in New Hampshire liked my story about how I got involved, and they wanted me to take on Representative Charlie Bass, who was essentially a Republican, but who would vote with the Democrats on everything about President Bush's agenda. And he was pro-abortion. And so they wanted me to take him on, and I ran against him in the primary, which was fun, and it was such, in a way, that at the end he thanked me because it helped him beat Katrina Sweat, because Katrina Sweat couldn't label him as the wacky conservative I was. So that's the way God used me there. And as of 2004, I was mildly involved with Senator Specter's campaign in Pennsylvania, because that's where I grew up, and I was fond of his kind of Republican going back to the 70s. And so, but I was a pro-life also, and he was at the time too, I think, or moderately so. And so it was a situation where I just tried to help there, but I didn't expect to be involved in it anymore after that. It's like it was not part of the plan. And so basically after 2004, I got a job at UNC Pembroke, came here to teach chemistry as a lecturer at UNCP, and had 3 great years there. Taught a lot of students nursing chemistry as well as organic labs and general chemistry. And so that was my specialty, teaching for over 30 years general chemistry to students all over the world. And I could take some graduate level courses, 1 per semester, each semester. And then, so I decided to go back to NCSU, the College of Textiles, for their polymer science program. And then I switched to full-time in January of 2008, and then got my PhD when I was 53. And so that qualified me to teach in universities and colleges that master's wasn't enough. So then, back in the 70s at my Christian college, I'd been praying for people behind the Soviet Union because of all the persecution they had. And I was a NASA fan, watching launches go up from Cape Canaveral and everything, so I was always curious about Baikonur, the Russian-Soviet launching pad that was in Kazakhstan, the Soviet Republic of Kazakhstan. So on a lark, I responded to an ad in the Chronicle of Higher Education for a chemistry opening for their first year of a university in Kazakhstan, applied, and I got the position. So God had us go on an adventure for 4 years to teach at Nazarbayev University in Kazakhstan. And my son, who was a history major, couldn't get a job with a history major in the U.S., he went along with me, worked in the library, and met his wife over there, and I had a great 4 years. He had 5 years there. They stayed the extra year after working in the library. And then basically that brought us back, and then I taught for a year in Iraq, and then 2 years in South Texas in the Rio Grande Valley, and that's where I met a lot of Mexican-American students, and that area became Republican within the last 8 years or something, because they realized that the Republican Party was really the ones that wanted to prevent illegal immigration, because illegal immigration hurt the farm workers who were there, who were American citizens who went back and forth across the thing, took their jobs because they could pay them under the table less money than they were making as part of their thing. So it was a situation where I ran into the problems that Hispanics have in all the different areas, whether it be, I was living in Robeson County and met many people who were, I think, summers and winters in Mexico, but then they come up for the harvest, make enough money to go back and live comfortably with their family the rest of the year. And I thought that was a wonderful blessing that the U.S. could do that. But unfortunately, the Democrat position on immigration wiped all that out.
Yeah, well, you know.
And so that's the nature of what I'm dealing with regarding Deborah Ross, as she supported President Biden's immigration positions, bringing millions of people into the U.S. to essentially take slave labor jobs and essentially drive out of their jobs lower income people, as well as people right out of high school, and farm workers and others who depended on them doing it the right way to come here and enjoy the American benefit, but also take care of their families back home. Because, yes, we in Mexico are neighbors, and we've got to treat our neighbors well on both sides.
Yeah, you know.
And a lot of Christians down there, Roman Catholics and others, have family members that come up here and work, and then they go back. And we should encourage that, but not all sorts of immigration that violates the rules, and it takes away financial resources for people who are here legally and following the rules. So that's part of why I'm involved now. But on more things, is that basically Deborah Ross in 2024, the only major thing I got in my post box, in my mailbox at the apartment complex I live in, was a big flyer from Planned Parenthood saying how they were proud of Deborah Ross and her abortion at any gestational age position. And I see it as modern eugenics, where essentially she wants to encourage confused young people to sterilize themselves with trans drugs or to kill their unborn babies so that they can go to college and have a career. But of course, a lot of them want to be mothers, but they can't, because then when you're trying to get mothers, then they realize they've been sterilized. It's a true tragedy. It's eugenics. Your listeners can look it up, but it's been going on for decades. It affected blacks in North Carolina in the 1950s, where they were forcibly sterilized. It affected Hispanics in Puerto Rico, where they did the same thing in the 1960s. And we saw in Kazakhstan, someone could get an abortion for $500 US. Same thing in Cuba. A girl getting pregnant in Cuba, she can get an abortion for like 10. You know, the communist state doesn't care about unborn babies. And that's the nature of the communist mindset. It's like the individuals don't matter. It's all about the state. And that's what we're dealing with right now with said. Yes, and I boldly do declare that Ross and her people, and as well as other Democrats here in Wake County, are Soviet communists or Maoist communists. The type of communism that would exterminate millions of their own minority people because the elite have decided who is not worth keeping alive.
Yeah, it seems that that your background.
That's the full dynamic of why I'm doing this and why I needed to. And then in July of 2023, I was not really considering running, and we had nice Republicans down in Robeson County, Bishop, Hudson, others, and I came up to Wake, found out Deborah Ross is there. I saw the movie Sound of Freedom, which talks about sex slavery and child slavery from Central America, bringing people up here to kind of service people, whether it be maids or other stuff like that, essentially for no pay, or they're just enslaved up here, called The Sound of Freedom. I recommend all of your listeners and viewers to watch it sometime, but that challenged me based on my history and said, Gene, I want you to do it again. And because my wife just had gone to be with the Lord as a Christian woman, and because it's stand she took against Patsy Mink when she ran against Patsy Mink in 1998 as a pro-life Republican running against the pro-abortion Democrat, I realized I had a responsibility, so I decided that July to take on Deborah Ross and do the best I can. So that's what got me involved in politics here in Wake County. And so, yeah, that was part one, but this is part two because I'm the nominee for the Republican Party of Wake County, and it's Together We Win. Michael Watley has a similar background. He has a Master of Divinity also. He is thoroughly pro-life and has the support of Susan B. Anthony list, of which Carol asked for their support back in 1998. So I'm very aware of the fact that they support pro-life Republicans who are taking a stand for life. And so in some respects, I have a nice picture of me and Michael together. And yes, we're running as a team. This is his first time running for U.S. Senate. I ran twice around the state of Hawaii. I had a great time. He's having a great time. And yes, we're normal people. He hasn't been a politician in a traditional sense of serving in office, but he's served behind the scenes, helping other candidates get elected and helping elections here in North Carolina be safe, secure, and things, and that helped President Trump win in 2024.
Let's talk a little bit about the family. I know that that the family is an important campaign issue for you, and obviously for many in the conservative circles and movement. The importance of the family unit, the importance of having a stable home, mom and dad, and I know that as a congressperson. you would have some influence in promoting policies that are family-centric, pushing for pro-life positions, taxes. So talk a little bit about your passion about the family unit and how that's important to to our just society in general, but Wake County in particular. How does that affect us? We have two-parent homes and the like.
Well, the thing about the nature of what the Republicans have been trying to do since the 1960s and even before is try and keep the family unit together, and even where they had influence in tax policy was to set up the deductions for kids and the deductions for the wife if she was staying home and taking care of the kids, which gives tax benefits to families who the husband is the wage earner, whatever level of income. It could be any level of income. And people with lower income, they get extra support, whether it be WIC support or SNAP or other benefits.
Or Medicaid or whatever it is.
Yeah, because they're entitled. They're entitled to it. But the government is making an investment in them so that they can have their intact family. And yet the Democrat welfare system, essentially, when they essentially reward an unmarried mother for having multiple kids, so much so that the husband being around lessens their benefits, okay, or makes him irrelevant, so he feels, what am I doing here? She's got the kids, she's got the money, all I have is this.
So government's the solution.
Government's the solution. But no, it isn't.
Right.
And there's many churches, Black, Hispanic, other churches here in Wake County who have essentially said, we're not going to tell our kids to wait until marriage to have sex because it's not very popular. We'd rather be liked and have the pastors have enormous incomes while families struggle underneath, and while wives aren't happening because they're not getting married. The boys or guys are disappearing, and then the wives and mothers are stuck with the kids. And it's a situation where the Republicans have, for decades, have been trying to encourage the family unit and other things like that. That's what one thing was all about. A heavy article that came out by Daniel Moynihan back in the 1970s, where he did some major research and found out the destruction of the Black and Hispanic families due to the welfare state, essentially.
Daniel Moynihan was a Democrat.
Yes, that's correct. One of the more blue dog conservative ones, but he was sane at the time, and a lot of Republicans joined in on that and been trying to do that, but in the minority you can't do much. But then, thankfully, when they became the majority in the House in 1994, they finally made the Civil Rights Act of 1964 apply to Congress. The Democrats have specifically exempted themselves so that they could underpay people that clean the floors in the Capitol. Whereas the Republicans said, no, this stops. It applies to us too. And that was the nature of the Contract of America, what Newt Gingrich and the other Republicans did. And that's when things changed, and thankfully, Bill Clinton was forced to go along with the new welfare thing that essentially benefited intact couples and intact families to essentially, the people had to work for benefits. So, they'd go out and get into his job. They had responsibilities.
Right.
And then the husband or the dad felt, oh, good, I'm accomplishing something for my family, and that guy gave more benefits to the family.
Welfare reform.
Yeah,
right?
that's where they started.
Yeah.
But then when the Democrats took over control of Congress again, under Bush and others, and because he was a more conservative, family-friendly one or whatever, friendly conservative, he decided to go along with it, but they changed it, got rid of work requirements, got rid of other things that essentially that enabled the family to continue. And it's a tragedy because in some respects, I've taught students all over the world from all sorts of things, and they get really excited about it. They learn whatever else. They can be trained for a job. And I started community college in Florida. And for young people who get out of high school, want to know what to do with their lives, they can go to Wake Tech and get trained to do air conditioning, to train to get a plumber, to be a mechanic, and all this other stuff.
All the trades.
That's right.
Right.
And all the Democrats want to do is cancel student loans for people that went to Duke and then provide money so that people, according to the DIA, should be allowed to get into Duke and UNC Chapel Hill. But once they are finished their freshman year, they end up flunking out because they can't handle the rigor.
Right.
But it's all about getting the enrollment at the beginning.
Right, sure.
But not about graduating at the end and getting a job.
Yeah.
And so the Democrats promise a lot, but basically what they're promising is more destruction of the American family and other things. And yes, it's even a deadly kind of destruction because of their support for what I call modern eugenics.
How can we, and obviously in Wake County, we have families that are living here, and they're struggling to live here. We kind of spoke a little bit about this earlier, and although it's not a federal issue, generally speaking, but the cost of housing, affordability, people trying to live here, and I know HUD is a federal agency, and I'm not sure exactly what they're doing right now regarding housing, but affordability is an issue for Wake County families because of the price of real estate. And I was speaking to some of my real estate friends, and an acre of land, undeveloped, is going for like $1 million in Cary and a couple of other areas in Wake County. There's nothing on it.
And I sold my house on a quarter acre of land in Robeson County for $80,000, and my mortgage was $465 a month.
A long time ago, right?
No, that was 2023.
In Robeson County here in North Carolina.
Robeson County here in North Carolina.
Oh, wow. Okay,
so the taxes are bizarre.
Yep.
But the Democrats in the leadership, particularly in Cary, they raise the taxes to pay for greenways and other green initiatives or whatever, which cost a lot of money.
Right.
But they don't make tax credits and other stuff for builders to make real affordable housing for people because they don't want people messing up their neighborhoods. That's called gentrification of the neighborhoods. They don't want black people or Hispanic people moving in, so they claim everything is affordable when in reality it's only affordable to the favored thing. That's what DOGE, D-O-G-E found with HUD is there millions of people that were illegal aliens given mortgages and everything else when they came into the U.S. so that they get settled in and become Democrats, essentially else, getting housing vouchers from HUD, getting pushed in line for whatever else. Most of your listeners have no idea the wait for a HUD voucher to get into a subsidized apartment here in Raleigh is 8 years.
Oh, wow.
And Dave Belloc may find out with his audits. He's already found millions of dollars of money stolen from the autism thing in the Medicaid for North Carolina because of Cooper and the other Democrats running that system. And thankfully, he's a Republican auditor that's been set up to essentially get these people prosecuted. But that's only the tip of the iceberg, the autism with Medicaid. And what Deborah Ross complains about, the cuts to Medicaid. Yes, cuts to Medicaid because illegal aliens are no longer eligible. They were never eligible in the first place, but the Cooper people let them waive the rules.
So going back to the housing issue.
The housing is part of that because essentially people have been put in line before others to get housing vouchers so that they could get an apartment in a low area, whether it be from Afghanistan or all these other places, and essentially go to the head of the line. And so what it makes the legal people here wait longer so that they can't get in, and then they got to pay higher rent.
And there's also the issue that you shared that some of the Cary Council is an example, and probably other.
Yeah, they steal money, they steal taxes.
Well, hang on a second. I'm talking about the regulations regarding developers or how they work with developers, and how that affects the common working class, where they can't, have an affordable home because of the either.
Correct.
The tax structure or the regulations or something like that. They can't buy a house, and because the councils, and this could be Wake commissioners, it could be Raleigh, it could be any of these local councils.
And I live in Northridge. I live in a nice apartment in a complex up in Northridge. I have a walking route of about 6 miles. During the time of the Biden administration, there was an enormous amount of construction going on.
Okay.
All of them illegal aliens given jobs in the U.S.
For the construction.
For construction.
Right.
Now they're gone, and they're replaced with Americans and legal Americans whether it be black or Hispanic or others who like construction, who got training at Wake Tech or wherever else. And so a lot of those fly-by-night people have disappeared, which is a great thing. But Deborah Ross says Wake County is losing all sorts of jobs. Yes, the illegal aliens are going home because there's an incentive now for them to go home because the Trump administration said, we'll pay you $2,400 per person to leave. We'll even give you a plane ticket. And yet Deborah Ross complains and everything else about a prison being modified so it can hold ICE people, but they can get out tomorrow if they decide, yes, I'll go home and stop fighting and wanting to stay here.
Yeah,
it's so bizarre. They say it's the conditions in Georgia are horrible. The conditions in eastern North Carolina are horrible. When in reality, they can leave tomorrow. All I have to do is leave the country. But they're so desperate to stay, and the Democrats want them to stay because they're potential Democrat voters later. And so it's traditionally perverse. And in some respects, yes, the Democrats want these things. They want the chaos. They want other things like that. And for example, nobody heard about a woman teacher at Ravensbrück School who was killed by a criminal who was let out early by multiple things, who was let out early from prison because of Cooper's and other Democrat policies which enabled that to happen. And the deaths that occurred in Charlotte, essentially, because the DA doesn't prosecute charges, they let them out or whatever else. The horrible thing that happened to the Ukrainian woman who was
Irina Zarushka.
Yes, who was a legal immigrant. And I even have on my website...
Killed by DeCarlos Brown.
That's right. I even have on my website a hearing that they had in Charlotte with the House Judiciary Committee, of which Deborah Ross was a part, and she squealed and screamed how the Republicans were making this political issue when the Democrats made it political by essentially letting this guy out on the street, even though he was mentally ill. And Cooper letting out 3,200 criminals to settle a lawsuit instead of just keeping them in jail where they belonged and got the things. That's the nature of what we're dealing with regarding what the Democrats are trying to do, provoke chaos, and that's the communist way, provoke chaos, and then say, Daddy State, rescue us. When in reality, the Republicans want common sense and to get things back into law and order. And so, yes, illegal aliens and other criminals have to leave.
We're talking with Gene Douglas, who's running for Congress, North Carolina District 2, which covers all of Wake County, and he's running against Deborah Ross, who's the current incumbent in the race. And we're talking about his campaign and a couple of different issues. We talked on family and the importance of supporting the family unit, but also there are also tax support on the federal government to encourage family support and family staying together. We'll talk a little bit about education. We talked a little bit about immigration. Gene kind of talked a little bit about that. But the educational system in Wake County, and I know it's not a federal thing, although there is Department of Education that's supposedly going away at some point, and this administration wants to move it down to the states, that they control the money, they control the decision making and the like. But there is concern about what's being taught in some of the school systems, right? To some of these kids, elementary, middle school, high schoolers, whether they are being taught what is necessary, and you as a retired professor of chemistry, are they being taught what is necessary to prepare them for the workforce versus being taught a whole bunch of other stuff that is many will classify as really unnecessary into the social causes and all these social issues. So talk a little bit about the education, your thoughts on where we are with education, at least in Wake County. And I know it's not something that you control as a congressperson, but the federal government has sent down some requirements and said you cannot teach DEI stuff, you cannot teach about certain things. So the government does have some kind of control with dollars. We will take money away from you if we see that you're doing this. And the Wake County School Board and other school boards across the state are changing policies to reflect that, so the money won't be taken away. So talk a little bit about your thoughts on what's being taught in the education system here in Wake County.
Correct. Well, as I said, I came here to teach at UNC Pembroke in 2005. And in a way, I was shocked because a lot of my students weren't prepared for college chemistry when they started. They didn't even have to take intro to chemistry first.
In high school? or even at the college level?
University.
Okay.
Community college, Robeson Community College, they had to take intro to chemistry first.
Okay.
Before they took general chemistry.
All right.
UNCP, they did not have to take it first.
Interesting.
Many students were not prepared for general chemistry because of that.
Wow.
Okay. So they flunked out, or they didn't do well because the high school didn't properly train them. That's what screwed up about the unions or the education system here.
Right.
It's not officially a union, but it's an association.
Right.
Dictating the policy. And this goes back to Cooper and
NCAE.
Yes.
Yeah.
Other Democrat governors push this because they're, and the lieutenant governor is responsible for education. So basically they push this, a credentialing system that is truly perverse. Someone could teach high school chemistry with a biology major or less, an education major, a minor in biology and chemistry, or just biology, can be allowed to teach chemistry at the high school level.
That's a teacher licensing issue, basically.
That's correct.
Right, okay. And which is controlled by the governor.
Yeah, that's correct.
I gotcha.
But someone with a master's degree who wants to reach out and help students do well in college chemistry, like me, because I tried, can't get a teaching credential in North Carolina because I don't have an education degree.
Interesting.
Okay?
Yeah.
The national government, through the Department of Education, tried to set up a national credentialing system, but it got all messed up by the woke people there. That's why the Trump administration is shutting it down, because essentially the DEI CRT regulations came from there, said build up this bureaucracy in the schools. We want kids to be trained under this DEI indoctrination thing. So they essentially teach to the test. They don't teach to prepare students for the next level. They teach to the test so they can get out of the grade and then graduate, and then they're stuck surviving when they can't even read or write, even though they were allowed to pass their grades, instead of doing the mean thing and saying, oh, I'm sorry, you're going to have to repeat the grade because you're not ready to go to the next one. But they don't do that anymore.
Right.
And it's a tragedy for all the kids. And if kids can't read or write or do basic algebra by the time they get to college, they're going to flunk out. And that's the thing that's perverse about places like Duke, UNC Chapel Hill. They use DEI for admissions. They admit all these people from deficient backgrounds or different minorities, whatever else. They exclude Asians because they're the ones that do homework and everything else, because they don't fit their rationale. Asians are the ones most discriminated against, and it's a perverse system that essentially decides on the basis of race, which isn't allowed according to the Civil Rights Act. So in a way, the Department of Education perverted that all around. And so yes, the Trump administration, for particularly this one, has been dismantling it and saying all the responsibilities come back to the states. An edict comes from the federal saying you're not allowed to do DEI, but what school districts do, like particularly in Wake County, they redefine and take the labels out and then declare it something else. Right. But they still indoctrinate the kids and everything else. And then they have one place in North Carolina where they hired a trans guy who's pretending to be a girl, and he's allowed to teach elementary school students. Okay,
that was an apex.
Or some schools in Wake and other places allow men to go into women's restrooms as long as they're wearing a dress and wear makeup. And it's just perverted. It's screwed up, and Cooper, as well as the other Democrats, Deborah Ross and others, and they were probably lousy at sports. If they're girls, they were probably lousy at sports. So yes, they want to sabotage the high school and college sports of women who are particularly much better than they ever were. So it's a jealousy thing as well as something that's truly depraved. And they're unwilling to admit the trans drugs and other stuff they give to confused teenagers sterilizes them. Makes it impossible for them to have normal kids later, 10, 20 years later, if they decide to change and this is not what I want. And then when they have conversion therapy, then they say, no, it should not be eligible for Medicaid or insurance, stuff like that. And this is at the federal level. This is what the Democrats tried to do. Going back the other way is not allowed. You're not allowed to sue the doctors that did this to them, the mutilations that essentially cut off body parts, and makes it impossible for them to get pregnant later. And so it's truly evil. And yet the Democrats almost think, oh, yes, it's my body. The inside baby is my body. It's like an appendix that could be taken out. Yes, I can remove it if it's two things. And yes, my position is for birth control purposes, abortion is always murder. Yes, ectopic pregnancy, where they will kill the woman if the baby is allowed to live longer than certain things. It'll kill yes. That is not even called an abortion. Miscarriages are legitimate. Those aren't called abortions. Cleaning up after them are not called abortions. Because they're not. It's like the body is sort of rejected the thing because it's deformed or the baby died or whatever else. And so they scare people with something that, unless we have these rules, allow it, whatever else. But usually those come as results of botched abortions too, or pills that they shouldn't have taken.
Well, let's go on to the last topic.
So in any case, that's the nature, but it all fits in everything else. And I think I mentioned the HUD things as well as things. Yes, the federal government does play a role, but it's not sending money for all these woke other nonsense, which essentially kills innocent children, maims them for life, and other stuff like that. And yes, Deborah Ross and Fushi and the other Democrats here scream and whine saying how Republicans don't care about women's health care, which is absurd.
Yeah, we're going to go to the last topic here for the balance of the show, the time remaining. And this is more of a bigger issue that's happening across America right now. And that is the election of candidates that align themselves with the Democratic Socialist of America. And what I've seen in my quick review of this, that there are candidates that have won primaries in New York, Colorado, and Pennsylvania against establishment Democrats. So now those three, as an example, in New York, Colorado, and Pennsylvania, will win their congressional seat because they're in the Democratic blue area. They're gonna, whoever won the primary, they're gonna win. So they're gonna go to Congress in this next Congress. So you got three right there, and then you got Representative Tlaib. I think she's Michigan or Minnesota. I don't know exactly where she's from. And AOC and Sanders. They're all, with the exception of Sanders, he doesn't consider himself a Democratic Socialist.
He's a Soviet communist.
Right, well, but he called himself unaffiliated, but he had not associated with DSA. The other five, the three that won the primaries and the two who are sitting members, AOC and Tlaib, have associated themselves with DSA. So you got, in theory, 5 plus Bernie that are in Congress. Bernie's senator, but they're going to Congress, and these are DSA people.
Correct.
And so my question, I guess, to you is, if you've had a chance to kind of think about where are we going as a country, and why is this happening, where these people who are clearly far left Democrats winning these races with a Democrat Socialist of America platform, which is against police, against prisons, against ICE, against giving free stuff. They want to give free stuff to everybody. Right. What is happening here? Gene, what do you think is going on, just in general?
Well, it starts with essentially Obama pardoning Puerto Rican terrorists who tried to bomb the Capitol.
Okay, I mean back when he was president.
Yeah, when he was president,
okay.
He pardoned Puerto Rican terrorists who bombed the Capitol in the early 70s. He pardoned people who hijacked airplanes and then flew to Cuba.
Okay,
it's all related. These activists now who are winning offices are either kids or grandkids of SDS, Students for a Democratic Society, and other groups in the 60s that were fighting the Vietnam War, because essentially the Vietnam War in some respects was fighting against the communists because the South Vietnamese did not want a communist thing. The leadership was Roman Catholic. They did not want, they wanted a better state, even though there was corruption, but still nothing like the communists of the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong at the time. And this goes all the way back to the 1930s and 40s. I encourage all of you readers to read, I'm sure it's been translated into Spanish, Witness by Whitaker Chambers.
Okay.
He talks about the Soviet Comintern that was started in the 1930s, where the Soviet Union was actively supporting communists in Mexico as well as in the U.S. With money, resources, and other things. Alger Hiss was a communist. There were a whole bunch of people connected to the Manhattan Project who were communists, and such like this. And their kids ended up going to universities to be university professors, because one of the things about the communist system, and whether it's be in Africa or Central America, whatever else, the Soviet Union would essentially invite these people from different countries to come be educated at Moscow State University. And then they send them back to degrees to run the bureaucracies and such like that. And that started way back when. But it's continued since then. Now Nicaragua, the leader of Nicaragua, one of the more recent ones, was the Soviet communist who was involved with the Nicaraguan stuff in Central America back in the mid-'80s. But all of a sudden it became appropriate. And so it's a situation where it's just a series of generations. The kids activated in the 60s, the communist leaders in advance were that. The kids who were activated in the 60s end up going into liberal schools and universities, be faculty members, like Angela something, who was a terrorist, who was convicted or whatever else. She ended up being a professor at a major university. Angela Davis, sorry. As well as others. They go to major things like Duke, other places like that. They continue to contaminate the naive students coming in with this, and then their graduates end up running for office now, and the Democrats decided to take off their clothes and say, yes, we're communists, we've been this way all along, but the people that don't go along, those are the ones that lose in primaries because they want to stay more moderate, whatever else. But that's the whole point. That's what they've been trying to do all along, is lie to people that say they really care about people and everything else. It's like Thomas Sowell has a great quote that I like to think. I don't remember it exactly, but he says that basically a liberal that says he cares about you and everything else is really just trying to sucker you in, and then essentially you'll be a serf after they've stolen all your money. And that's the nature of, they want to confiscate it from Elon Musk. All the money is, did people really think that Elon Musk keeps his $1 trillion in his basement? No. He invests every dime of the money he has. Most of it is in SpaceX or
company stock. Company stock.
And that's investment in the business. It's not, he doesn't spend $1 million for dinner.
Right.
Or $100,000 for dinners and vacations, like the leaders of Kerry.
He's always working.
Yes, he's always working.
And
it's a situation where even President Trump is a billionaire because he worked very hard at building proper properties that people want to live in. And so he and his real estate family raised a lot of money legally, and they tried to get him again and again, even before he became president. And he's never been convicted of anything related to his businesses.
Well, final words.
So that's the nature of what we're dealing with. And yes, the communists want to confiscate the wealth of everybody else who earned it, and then say they want to distribute it. But that means, and remember, the Democrat Socialists of Germany were called Nazis. That's the things. The Democrat Socialists of Italy and Spain were called fascists. They're all connected. So a communist calling Trump a fascist is kind of absurd, because they're all different communists. The Bolsheviks, those are the ones that made an agreement with Hitler. Hitler broke it and invaded Russia, okay? So basically it's like they love fighting each other. And the Democrat Socialist thing of Korea, that's North Korea, they're communists. The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, that's the Soviet Union. That's communists. And so the socialist labor and the Democrat Socialists, yes, if you look at the Democrat Socialist thing of Germany, that was East Germany. And so, yes, they're just exposing themselves more now because they can. They have the power to do that. So
Well,
in any case, that kind of sums it pretty well.
Yeah. We had a conversation today with Gene Douglas, who's running for Congress, Wake County, North Carolina, District 2, and we covered a couple of issues from family to education to the Democrat Socialists of America to housing affordability to immigration. We talked pro-life. A couple of issues, the family unit. So we touched on a lot of topics about Gene and his run for office, and also who he is and what he believes in. So Gene, I want to thank you for coming to the show and sharing your platform and your thoughts and your beliefs with us. And thank you for coming into the studio. And again, we wish you the best in your campaign. As you run for office, and also that you stay strong and healthy and safe as you try crisscross Wake County to do what you got to do to get your message out. Thank you for being here.
Well, if I could make one last
Go
comment.
right ahead.
One last comment.
Sure.
In Wake County, it's together we win. Mm-hmm. I don't have much money in my campaign account. But basically, if Whatley wins in Wake County, the odds of me winning are pretty good. Okay? I'm working with them. I'm working with all the other things to essentially overlap everything that I do with what they're doing. Mm-hmm. It's truly together we win. So I don't need to raise and spend $1 million. Mm-hmm. Deborah Ross has $1.7 million in the bank. Mm-hmm. What my job is to make her waste as much as possible, and then maybe if God wants me to, I'll win. That's what the attitude in the Wake GOP is. Mm-hmm. Together we win. And that's what the Whatley group wants. That's what TP Action wants. That's what the North Carolina GOP wants. That's what the Wake GOP wants, is essentially a team to say, yes, we're not for Soviet communism. We're not for Maoist communists that just wants to kill innocent people.
Awesome.
We have a new Republican vision for our country. And yes, it is Make America Great Again, or Make America Healthy Again. We're proud of those monikers, in spite of the fact they want to make it into some sort of weird thing like they did to the Tea Party people back in the earlier decades ago.
Thank you for being with us, Gene. We're going to put the links to his website and Facebook on the show notes for this interview, and we will upload it to our YouTube channel, also our podcast, so you can listen to it later at your leisure for those who will join us after the fact. Gene, thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you again very much, and thanks to your director, sir. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. And those of you with a Hispanic background, I encourage you to come visit their church. So. But I'm a happy Christian, and I think that all of you are listening or watching, that you'll become a Christian too. So, because that truly gives us new life and hope for our future. And yes, I have great hope for my granddaughters and my grandson, who just is going to be 2. So,
amen.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Gracias, Señor, por tu presencia. Levanta tus manos al cielo y descansa en Él en esta noche.